Hey Floss Tube, it's Leslie with Fat Cat Flossing, and I'm here today. It's Sunday, February, I think it's the 18th, but I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. And I'm back for my second Stitch With Me video, and I hope that you guys are able to see what I'm doing. Like I mentioned before, I stitch almost exclusively in hand. I haven't put anything in a frame or hoop in years and years. I got out of the habit when I sprained a wrist years ago, and the frame was heavy and hurt to hold. And I liked doing it, and I just never went back. What I'm working on today is Blackberry House by Plum Street Samplers. And I'm doing it in the recommended Gast and Classic Colorworks threads. Alexa, turn it down. Sorry. I did it in the Classic Gast and Classic Colorworks thread as recommended. And it's on a 32 count antique white or ivory. I can't remember what the linen is called. But I can look in my Xstitch app if I want to, but that would require me, to look at the phone, and we're recording on the phone, so I can't look right this minute. But anyway, it's on a 32 count ivory colored linen. And I am stitching the planner, which is kind of the centerpiece of the pattern. And I'm doing this because I can't walk and chew gum, and I can't talk and count cross stitch. So doing a piece like this that is one solid color means I can stitch and talk. Otherwise, I'd have way more errors than what I wanted to. This hasn't been a real productive cross stitch week for me. I lost my little Stella on Wednesday, and thank you all for all the kind comments and sympathy that you gave me. I really did appreciate it. But the offshoot of that was I didn't feel much like stitching for a couple of days, so I didn't get much done. But yesterday my stitchy bug kind of came back, and I did get this outlined and ready to go. Alexa, turn it down. Sorry, my music seems to wax and wane, and it seems to wax more than it wanes. And that's Steve's favorite toy, the Amazon Alexa, which is pretty cool. When we got it, I thought, oh, it's just a waste of money. But it actually is pretty nifty. I do like it. But shh, we won't tell him that. I did have some good news this week. Oh, and Mochi, the other kitty that, had the trifexis overdose last week. Week before last. The week before I went to San Antonio. Anyway, he ate the dog's trifexis, which is their heartworm and flea and intestinal parasite preventative. He spent 4 days at the vet, but he is now okay, praise the Lord. So I'm very grateful for that, because I had a really bad set of guilties over that, because I left it where he could get it. I just didn't think he'd get it that quickly. But anyway, he's home and he's doing fine. Back to harassing the girl kitties, which is his normal MO. And the other good news I had this week was my son called me on, I think it was Friday, and he's in the Army. He's a staff sergeant in the Army. He's currently stationed at Schofield Barracks near Honolulu, Hawaii. And he called and told me that he was being transferred to a medical unit. And the offshoot of that is, I don't know, he had an accident in training, 6 or 8 months ago, maybe a little more than that, shortly after he got to Hawaii, I think. And he messed up his shoulder and tore a bunch of ligaments in a foot. And he had the shoulder repaired shortly after I had mine done, like maybe in August or so. And his shoulder has rehabbed fairly well, but he still has trouble with his ankle. So he's been transferred to a medical unit, which basically means they'll evaluate him to see if they can get him rehabbed and try to do surgery on it again and this kind of stuff. But the offshoot is that if he can't get rehabbed, then he'll be med boarded out. And it's kind of a mixed bag for him because he had really kind of planned to make the Army his career. But he's kind of frustrated because he says the Army has changed a lot from when he actually got in. He's a lot like his mama, and he doesn't have a whole lot of stupidity tolerance, and apparently there's a lot of stupidity going around. But anyway, he will be, if they can't get him rehabbed sometime within the next 6 to 12 months, he'll be med boarded out. And as a mom, I am more than okay with that, because I have spent many a worry and many a prayer and many a tear being concerned about him, especially when he was deployed. And I was so grateful when he was stationed in Hawaii, because then those folks are not first response to the Middle East. But then the folks in North Korea had a bad attack of the crazy. And, a few weeks ago, they had that ballistic missile alert for Hawaii, which turned out to be a, non-starter, but thank God. But, this mama's heart's been worried. So I am quite happy that he's probably getting out. Even though it won't be anytime real soon, the fact that he's been transferred to this medical rehab unit means that he wouldn't deploy anyway. And again, I'm okay with that. But that was the best news I had all week. Don't have a whole lot of else news to impart. So I thought for something to talk about, I would do Latisha, the Crafty Curator, her Crafty Curator Tag. And I don't know that I'm going to have answers to all of these questions, but I'm going to give it the old college try. So here we go. The first question on it is, if you could wish for a person in history to be represented in a mirabilia pattern, who would it be? Oh boy. I've only done one mirabilia pattern, and it was, I don't know, one of her fancy ladies. I did it back in the 90s and gave it to a niece, and I no longer remember much about it. I have a couple of mirabilias in my stash, but I've never done them. And the only one I'm likely to do, if I can get my hands on a copy of it, is Lady Liberty. But anyway, who would I want? I don't know. That's a hard one. Maybe Queen Elizabeth the First. And I have no idea if she's been represented in one or not, but if not, I think that would be it. Because I assume that we're restricted to choosing women, because I don't know that she's done any men. But Queen Elizabeth was a woman with power, who maintained her power for an extraordinarily long time in a time period where women were essentially powerless. Women were chattel. They were property. And I have a huge admiration for her. She was definitely a very strong person. I think she had to be very ruthless. I mean, not everything she did was admirable, but I think she had to be very ruthless to maintain the power of her position. And she made England a notable power. And really denied herself, from what I have read and know historically of her, the pleasure of a lifelong love and family in order to preserve her power. And, that's a choice, but I'm not sure that I could make that choice. So I have a lot of admiration for her. I think she, as a historic figure, she's definitely one of the first true women of power. So I guess that's my answer to that. What landmark area of the world would you love to see captured in a chatelaine? Well, here's another one I don't have a real good answer for. I've never done a chatelaine. I think they're beautiful. The ones I've seen, like, just looking at Stitchmania or Instagram or whatever. They're gorgeous. But I've never done one, and I don't have a whole lot of first-hand knowledge of what patterns are existent now. So I can't tell you that I know what one I would want to see new. So in the spirit of that, I will tell you that I thought about this a little bit earlier. And there, I'm a big reader, and there are several series of books that, sorry, I have to get a kitty hair out of my stitching here. Several series of books that I have reread several times and will reread again. And one of those is a series by Tad Williams. And the fantasy world in that series is a place called Ostenard. And if you like fantasy type books, this is a great series. The first of the series is, I believe, the Dragonbone Chair. And I don't remember, maybe the second one. I don't remember the name of the second one. I think the third and final book of the trilogy, I think, is Return to Green Angel Tower or something like that. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, it is a great series of books, and the descriptions of the world of Ostenard are gorgeous. So I think I would like to see Ostenard with its Dragonbone Chair, which is the throne of the kingdom, and then its fairy tale world portrayed in a chatelaine. So, not exactly a real world answer, but, my answer. Let's see, what's number 3? What are the top 3 places you want to visit that you've never been to? Other than New Jersey in May, of course. Well, I haven't been to New Jersey in May, but I'm sure it's beautiful. But that would not be one of my top 3 places. I have not traveled extensively. I've been around the continental U.S. some. And then I've been to Mexico and several places in the Caribbean and to Canada. But I've never been outside of kind of this hemisphere, nor have I been to South America. Costa Rica is the closest I've gotten there. So I would really like to go to Europe. My father's family immigrated from, now figure it out. Okay, I'm back. Camera cut off again. We'll be doing the splice and dice thing again with this video. I cannot figure out this freaking camera, how to get it to record more than about 12 minutes of video without cutting off. But anyway, back to the places I'd like to go. I'd like to go to Europe. My father's family immigrated from Nassau, Germany in 1837, and I would like to see where my family originally came from. And of course there are many more places in Europe I would like to see, but Germany is probably tops on my list. And then I'd love to see the rest of Europe also. I toyed with the idea. I originally got an associate's degree in nursing. I worked as a nurse. And then I decided I was going to go back and complete my degree, my bachelor's degree. And I toyed with the idea and took a fair number of classes and toyed with the idea of teaching history, because I'm fascinated by medieval European history. And there are lots of places that were discussed in those classes that I would love to see. But I decided in the long run that making a living and being employable anywhere I went was more important than studying what I was real fascinated with. So I went back, got a bachelor's degree in nursing instead, and that was all she wrote. But offshoot, I'd love to see Europe. Lots of places in there that I've heard of, never seen, would love to see. Next place is probably Australia. From the pictures I've seen, it is a beautiful place, and it is also appears to be extremely diverse. And I would like to see Australia. And then thirdly, my husband's best friend growing up was Japanese. and Steve practically lived with Takashi's family because they were best buddies for years and years. And so Steve is fascinated with Japanese culture because they maintained a fairly Japanese household, you know, even living in America. And he's told me a lot about that, and so I would like to go to Japan. Now, excuse me for a minute here while I change threads. I did preload needles, so that shouldn't be too big an ordeal. But anyway, Europe, Australia, Japan, in that order. What's the next question? What is it you love most about stitching? What would you miss most about stitching if you could no longer do it? These may or may not have the same answer. What do I love about stitching? I have always liked doing crafty type things. So I like just creating something and creating something beautiful or entertaining or special to me in some way. It's a lot of fun. It's cool. I spent years making beaded jewelry. I spent years doing ceramics. I haven't done ceramics since the 80s, but I did do a lot of them when I did them. So I think that my favorite part is taking a pattern and a pile of thread and a piece of linen and making something, you know, that I consider to be beautiful or inspirational or special in some way. That act of just making something feeds my soul. And I think that's what I would miss most about it if I could no longer do it. And I assume that the reason I will probably be able to no longer do it at some point is probably going to be my eyesight, because she ain't so good there. I am horrifically nearsighted. I'm holding my stitching about 8 inches from my face, and that's about my best focal length. I'm not wearing my glasses. I have trifocals, progressive trifocals, and I find them to be, I mean, you know, I need them, but they're a pain in the arse. But typically I prefer to stitch or do anything up close, reading included, without my glasses. But that's what I would miss most, just the ability to make something that fills a need in me to be creative, I guess. What was the last movie that made you cry? Oh boy. To answer that, I'd have to remember the last movie I saw, which I think may have been the Star Wars prequel, Rogue One. And I did cry at the end. We don't go out to a whole lot of movies. My husband loves movies. And we used to live near a really cool theater, but there's not a really cool theater near us now, so we don't do a whole lot of movies anymore. And since I've gotten back into stitching, I stitch with my glasses off, so I can't really see the TV, so I'm not a huge television watcher at home. He would watch movies all the time. If you could be any animal or insect, what would you be and why? Duh, a cat. Of course. But only a very pampered and special indoor house cat. No. I'd like to have somebody put all my meals out for me and clean the bathrooms for me and all that kind of stuff. And just love on me, admire me. So, yeah, a cat. Say something that you love about 2 random floss tubers and why. We should watch them. Don't name the person that sent you this tag. Okay, 2 random floss tubers. Well, the first would be Michelle Bindi Stitchy. She has the kindest spirit. I have a whole lot of admiration for her because of the work that she does working with hospice. And she does beautiful work stitching. I really enjoy her floss tube videos. And somebody else. Oh, I just watched somebody new that I really liked. Dadgummit. What was her name? Oh, where's Feathers? Lorraine, which I think her floss tube channel is Rags to Stitches. She's funny. She's very genuine. She's very sweet. I enjoy her a lot. And of course, I watch far too much FlossTube. It plays kind of its background noise when I'm stitching during the day. My routine chores and stuff take me up to around usually noon, 1 o'clock, something like that. And unless I've got something else going on, then it's stitching time for me until it's time to take care of the animals in the afternoon and get ready to come home from work. So usually from about, let's say, 1 to 4:30 or so, my fat Fanny is parked on the couch and I have FlossTube on. So I watch a lot of people. If you found that you were suddenly unable to stitch, what would you do with your stash? Does anyone in your family know what to do with it if you couldn't advise them? What would I do with it? I would donate it to somebody that could use it, I guess. I don't have anybody in my immediate family or circle of close friends that I would be like, leaving it to. So, I mean, the answer would be to donate it to somebody and hope that somebody got some enjoyment out of it. I think my answer on that might be to send it all to Michelle, Bendy Stitchy, because I know she would dole it out to people. And, she's very generous, and I think that she would make sure that it got around to people who would enjoy it. My husband would have no clue. So, Steve, if I croak tomorrow, send all the cross-stitch stuff to Bendy Stitchy. What was your stitching like before social media became inundated with cross-stitching? Did you stitch less? Did you stitch more? Did you even have such a thing as a rotation? Well, number one, I don't do a rotation. I have a number of works in progress, but I stitch what I want when I want. I don't have a formal rotation. What is it that M says? Swee wee? Yeah. I'm a stitch what I feel like it person. And as far as social media goes, I spent 15 years from 2002 to the beginning or end of 2016 or the beginning of 2017 not stitching. And social media came into prominence during that time. So really, and I was always working full time when I stitched before. So, I didn't have as much stitching time, and there was no social media impact on it. So since I have started restitching, I'm sure that there are times that I spend a lot of time gawking at Facebook or Instagram that I could be doing more stitches. But the flip side of that is I'm very inspired by things that I see on social media, both to broaden the horizons of what I'm stitching and to go, oh yeah, I could be doing that. So I think overall it's probably a positive influence. Like the Friday Off the Grid group, love that. And I knew that we would be out and about Friday evening. We were going out to eat and going to the grocery store and stuff. So I made a point Friday afternoon of doing my Friday afternoon off the grid then. So overall, I think it's a positive influence. Do you find that cross-stitching on social media has helped you stay focused or caused you to become more distracted? If it has helped you to stay focused, how do you manage to stay active on social media and still be productive in your stitching? If it has distracted you from your stitching, what have you done to get back on track with your stitching but still remain active in the community? I think that's pretty much the same part of what I said before. Now, I do take pictures and post on social media, and I would not have 15 years ago, taken time to do that because, again, social media was not existent at that time. But overall, I think it is a positive influence. Although, I do squirrel a lot on Facebook and probably miss some stitching time because of that. But hey, feed your soul too. And then Latisha says, I have a t-shirt that says, cross-stitching saved my life once. Tell us about a time when cross-stitching saved your life or someone else's. I can't tell you that I think cross-stitching has saved my life. I worked in a profession where saving a life was not just a expression. It was what we did. And I actually find that to be a little bit gratuitous. Cheapening those people like policemen and firefighters and nurses and doctors and paramedics and whomever that actually do save lives. So I don't think cross-stitching has saved my life. It definitely makes my life much more enjoyable. But save my life? Nah. Okay, and once more with feeling, because apparently, I don't know if we didn't record or I've managed to delete part 3 earlier. So, back again. Anyway, next question. And by the way, I didn't mean to offend anybody with the save a life thing. Just cross stitch is something enjoyable. It's not a save a life thing for me, but it is an important part of my life. But my husband pointed out that I've been exceptionally grumpy the last couple of days, and that I might not have come across the best on that. So I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anybody. Just my grumpiness is apparently near the surface. Okay, if you were to look at your stash and the types of patterns that you have collected, what will your cross-stitch say about you? Are you dark and dramatic? Are you warm and cuddly and cute? Are you whimsical and magical? Are you primitive with a love for old-fashioned patterns from the days of old? Are you colorful and adventurous and not easily defined? Well, I think I'm pretty eclectic. I have, I don't do much dark and dangerous or dark and dramatic, but depending on how I feel on any given day, I do stitch a fairly wide variety of things. So I think it would say that I have wide and varied tastes, and I like everything from the more primitive stuff and more subdued colors to whimsical and bright and colorful, and it just depends on my mood and what I'm looking for. I don't think I can be pigeonholed into necessarily any of those things. So I guess it says I'm eclectic. And it also says I've been collecting cross-stitch stuff for a long time, and tastes and types of things changed a whole lot between 2002 and 2016 or 17. So anyway, I'm hard to pigeonhole. That's what it would say. Name something that was the telltale sign that you were addicted to cross-stitch without hope of redemption. I don't know. I guess the fact that I more than doubled the size of my stash last year when I came back to cross-stitching. And I had a fair amount of stuff left over from when I stitched, for years before. I had basically an old-fashioned antique trunk that was full of cross-stitch stuff. But, I definitely had lots of stash acquisition during 2017. And I have resolved to do much better than that during 2018. And so far, I'm doing pretty good. Joann's was having their President's Day 3 for $1 sale on DMC. And I did run by Joann's Friday evening and pick up, I don't know, maybe 20 flosses. Just randomly, whatever, I got like 3 of the Blanc and 3 of 310 because, those are always going to use them kinds. And I was so aggravated. They had multiple bins for whatever it is, B352 or 52, or whatever it is, the really bright white. They were all full of Blanc, and they had no idea that there was any difference in the colors. So I couldn't get any of that because they were clueless. But anyway, I bought about 20 DMCs at 3 for $1, so plus my 20% off coupon. So I got a good deal on that. And other than that, I have one Fabric of the Month club that I get a fat quarter of. I think it's Lugana, but it could be Joblin. And then the Victorian Motto threads. But other than that, I really have not bought cross stitch stuff this year, and I've got more projects in my stash of stuff that I could probably do than if I lived to be 100, or maybe if I lived to be 300. And I'm going to be better this year about spending a boatload of money. I've spent some money on some fabrics for finishing and stuff, but I haven't gone crazy this year, and I'm going to stick to that. I'm not going to, you know, go drop several $100 at a pop in the LNS. At least, so I say now. We'll see what happens, but I'm trying to be better. Trying. I guess that's the end of the questions. My plans for this week are to start a couple more smalls, go through and see what I've got in my little stack of stuff I wanted to do this year, and because I really enjoyed having those little periodic finishes. Those were kind of an ego boost. Look what I've done. I got something finished. So that's my plan. Pull out a couple more of those, get a couple more starts on those. I have a couple more project bags I want to do. I'm going to do another peacock bag to keep for myself. I don't know if I said this earlier, because now that I've done this twice, it's all run together. But if you haven't entered the giveaway for the peacock bag, go back to my videos. I think it's number 16 and 17. Couldn't swear to that, but the last couple. And comment on those. You have to be a subscriber and have to be over 18, but comment on those and tell me what your favorite bird is. And when I get to 750, and I think I'm around 650, 660, something like that now. When I get to 750, I'll give away that peacock project bag via a random number generator thingy. So I got that, and then when I was in San Antonio, there was a quilt shop right next to the LNS that I went to, and Charlotte so generously treated me to. Stuff from there. But anyway, we went in that little quilt shop because I was looking for some specific fabric that I did not find, doggone it, because I have a plan for something. But anyway, I got that real cute carrot fabric that I was considering using to finish off Little Gray Hair, and there is a companion fabric to that I got a half yard of. So I'm going to make a project bag out of that. And then I'm going to make the peacock bag, and we'll see what else. I've got a couple other pieces of material that I've had pulled out and just haven't done them yet. So I'm planning to grind out 2 or 3 project bags this week. And other than that, start some smalls. Keep working on Blackberry House. Actually, I'm probably going to put this one away for a little while. I want to get some work in on Oh Beautiful, because I haven't worked with it in a week or so. So I want to put in some threads on Oh Beautiful. I'm actually looking forward to getting the cross-stitch portion of it done and starting the specialty stitches on it. I haven't done any specialty stitch stuff in a while, so dadgummit, can't get that one to go through. So anyway, those are my plans. Nothing real special, but I'll enjoy all of them, getting them all done. And that, I'm going to watch a lot of Floss Tube. And tonight's plan is, excuse me, I'm going to go make some, I was watching Vanna's post the other day, and she had posted she was making a curry, and I like Thai food. I enjoy curry, so I'm going to try her recipe for curry. I've never made curry at home, so this is going to be an adventure. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it will be edible. And speaking of Vanna, I mentioned in my video number 17 last week that I had brought home a new cat, and her name is Vanna, spelled V-A-N-A. And somebody had private messaged me and said, "Don't you think that's disrespectful, calling a cat after Vanna?" And I'm like, well, no, not really, because she's not named after Vanna Epperson Pfeiffer, the Twisted Stitcher. Her registered name is Bumblebee Nirvana Ideal, And she's been called Vana from the time in 2016 when she was a small kitten. And she's a little over a year and a half old now. And I'm not going to change her name. You know, she's used to it. I think it would be cruel to try to change her name. So, anyway, no disrespect to Vana the Twisted Stitcher. Just the cat's name is Nirvana, so she's been called Vana. So, anyway, I think I'm going to call it quits about there before the camera cuts off for a fourth time. Because I don't think I have enough intestinal fortitude to do this again. Because I can't remember what I've said and what I haven't said. I used to have a brain, I really did. And of course you can hear Nexie yodeling in the background because it turns out she is not pregnant. Darn it. Since I brought her back from San Antonio. But Story is pink. And I hopefully will have kittens the end of March, first part of April. And I'm looking forward to having babies. But anyway, that's about it for me. I'll finish up this thread on Blackberry House, and then it's probably going to go back in its project bag for a little while. And I'll get some cooking done. We'll watch some Olympics. I'm going to start a couple of smalls either later today or probably tomorrow, actually. But I'm going to get a little stitching done on Oh Beautiful, too, because I've neglected it for the last week. But that's it. I hope y'all enjoyed stitching with me. I hope you were able to see what I was doing. And I hope I didn't sound too grumpy. Because I will admit to not being a ray of sunshine today. But anyway, you guys have a good week. I will catch up with you on Wednesday or Thursday for my regular floss tube. And in the meantime, happy stitching. Y'all take care. And I will talk to you soon. God bless y'all. Bye-bye.